Hi, welcome to our online lesson on the rule against perpetuities. So for rule against perpetuities, it's particularly important you remember the whole narwhals over rainbows and stars. Anything can happen in the future world of future interest. For the rule against perpetuities, in order to make it work, you have to suspend all logic, believe that people can have children forever, can believe that certain things can happen that in the real world couldn't possibly happen. But that's the way this works. So, general idea on the rule against perpetuities is you don't want a dead person to be able to control land forever or fortunes forever. We discussed this earlier. It's the basic theory in property that we want land to be economically productive, and we want land to be used for the best possible purpose. Well, no dead person can be convinced that they should change their will or they should change their conveyance to something that is more economically productive. Therefore, we want to not eliminate, but diminish dead hand control. Put a time limit on it so that we can use land in the most economically productive manner for that age and time. So the somewhat arbitrary chosen time limit is a person's life plus 21 years and 10 months. So if you have a condition on the land that's a part of a conveyance, if that condition can continue on past one person's life plus 21 years, 10 months, then that transfer, that condition, is going to fail the rule against perpetuities. So breaking it down further, the official way you say the rule against perpetuities is no interest is good unless it must vest, if at all, no later than 21 years after some life and being at the creation of the interest. Breaking it down, no interest is valid, which means that if it fails the rule against perpetuities, we knock it out at creation. We blue line everything from the very start. Second, how do we know whether it's valid? Because it must vest or fail. It either must vest as in the condition is met, and therefore the condition isn't holding on the property anymore. So A marries B, or B never marries Britney Spears. That's vesting. If those things happen or don't happen or fail forever. So B never marries Britney Spears. Well, the day that B dies, that condition has failed completely. The condition on the land can't hold past that person's life. Third, it must vest or fail within one life and being plus 21 years, 10 months. So decoded, no interest. So any sort of condition is what they're talking about, the condition on the land that restrains someone from transferring, unless it must vest or fail. So vesting, again, is when you're absolutely certain the person's going to get it because they've reached 25, they've reached 30, they've gone to med school, they've gone to law school, whatever that condition is, it's been met. Or it has failed absolutely because the person has not gone to medical school and they've died. So they can never go to medical school. That condition is removed because it can never happen. It can never vest. Therefore, it's absolutely failed within one lifetime plus 21 years, 10 months. So again, it's a somewhat arbitrary time limit. A life in being, we'll spend more time on this in the upcoming slides, but it just means a measuring life. So we have to choose one person who can control whether it absolutely vests or fails. And then we have their lifetime plus 21 years, 10 months. And that condition has a time, just must vest or fail within that time, or else you knock out the entire conveyance. So the first thing you always do, no matter what, label the interests. Rule against perpetuities only applies to contingent interest. The contingent interests are contingent remainder, executory interest, and vested remainder subject to open. Those are the only three things that can trigger the rule against perpetuities. So if you label the interests and you don't have any contingent remainders, no executory interests, and no vested remainders subject to open, then you don't have to worry about the rule against perpetuities. Then You want to list the lives in being at the time of conveyance. What do we mean by these lives in being? A life in being is someone who is alive at the time of the conveyance. That person must also biologically control whether the interest will vest. What do we mean by biologically control? Well, if the person is the parent or the grandparent of whoever it's going to, that person biologically controls. So you use that person and you take their life, and then after their death, can that condition on the land vest or fail 21 years, 10 months after their death? If that condition can continue on the land past their death, 21 years, 10 months, then it's going to violate the rule against perpetuities. So what do you want to look for in the rule against perpetuities? You want to look for a potentially forever event. So long as it is used as, then to, something that is a condition on the land that could potentially continue forever. You want to look for group gifts. So any sort of conveyance that's going to a class or a group that can add members. When you see group gifts, remember that anyone, while they're still drawing breath, can have children. That is going to create one of the complications that makes rule against perpetuities really challenging. Whenever you see a conveyance that requires someone turn over the age of 21, it should be a red flag to you. If the parent or grantee is still alive, red flag, because you can always add more members. And people can add members forever, meaning that fertile octogenarian, if they're 105, they can still have kids. So we're now getting into the problems that exemplify how you go through a conveyance to check if it has violated the rule against perpetuities. I'm going to read the problem. You should pause this lesson, do the actual problem, and then I'll walk through the answer. So just as we would in class, I'll give you a few minutes, except here I'm not going to give you a few minutes. I'm going to ask you to pause the video, do the actual conveyance, label everything, see if there's a potentially forever event or a class, and then we'll walk through it together. So press play again, you'll get the answer. O conveys to A for life, then to A's children who reach age 30 and their heirs. A has one child, B who is one. Please pause now and label all of the conveyances. So hopefully you have labeled all of your conveyances. A has a life estate. Don't think that that is controversial in any way. A's children have a contingent remainder. Why is it a contingent remainder? Because A does have one child, so we do have one ascertained person, but she has to reach the age of 30 and she's only one. So it remains contingent for 29 years. Because it's a contingent remainder, O has a reversion by operation of law. Because A's children have a contingent interest, the contingent remainder, we want to check for wrap. So what do we do next? First, A is a life and being at the time of conveyance. A can have a child at any point. A biologically controls whether this will vest or fail. So they meet what we need to have a life and being. How do we test this against the rule against perpetuities? So we create this alternative world where A has another child, C. A dies. The day after A dies, B dies. So we just have C, who's this child who must reach 30 years old within the day of the death of her mother, 21 years, 10 months. So A's life, A's death, plus 21 years, 10 months. Can A's children, who is now exclusively C, because B has died and A has died, so A can't have any more children, the class can't get bigger, we only have C. Can C become 30 within 21 years, 10 months? No, C can't become 30 within 21 years, 10 months. Therefore, this conveyance is going to violate the rule against perpetuities. So what was this test that I just did? It's called the create, kill, count test. So you want to count 21 years from the death of all the measuring lives at the time of conveyance and see if the interest will vest or fail within that time. If the conveyance or the condition will vest or fail within one life and being, 21 years, 10 months, then it doesn't violate the rule against perpetuities. If no, it can vest or fail outside of that timeline. So you can turn 30 after one life and being, 21 years, 10 months, then the conveyance is void for the rule against perpetuities. So our problem here, O conveys to B for life, then to B's first grandchild. B has 3 kids. 1, measuring life. Who is going to biologically control whether this vests? B. B biologically controls whether B's first grandchild is actually going to exist within one life and being, 21 years, 10 months. So create, for the create, kill, count test. We need B to have a 4th child. She has 3 kids at the time of conveyance. She has a 4th child after the conveyance. B and the 3 kids die in a freak accident the day after the 4th child is born. So this child 4 is now an orphan. B cannot have any more children, so the class can't get bigger. We want to count. Can, as when I mean can, is it possible for her to have her first child after 22 years? So the clock starts ticking at B's death. Can that 4th child have her first grandchild more than 21 years, 10 months later? Yes, it is. Therefore, that condition can continue after 21 years, 10 months. It violates the rule against perpetuities. It fails the create, kill, count test. So under common law, if a conveyance fails rap, all offending conveyances are blue-lined at the time of conveyance. So the clock that you look at to measure the conveyance is when it's created. If a conveyance has anything that's going to fail against the rule against fail the rule against perpetuities, you just eliminate it. Modern law, this is why rule against perpetuities is now considered obsolete. You have cypress, cypre, or cypress. The courts rewrite the conveyance so the future interest no longer violates the rule against perpetuities, but still manages to convey the O or the grantor's original intent. Uniform statutory rule against perpetuities operates in Massachusetts. Valid if rap is met or the conveyance can vest within 90 years from creation. So you still have to understand rap because rap still works, or you can choose 90 years from the date of conveyance, which is so much easier. You just say, at time of conveyance, is it possible for this to vest or fail within 90 years? Yes or no. So here are some more rule against perpetuities problems. I'm going to read them. Please pause, label the conveyances, work it out yourself, and then listen to the answer. So O conveys to K for life, then to the first child of C, who reaches 23. C has 2 children, I, who is 2, and S, who is 4. It is 1999. Press pause now. Okay, labeling. K has a life state. C has nothing because it says to the first child of C. C gets nothing. So C's child, who reaches 23, has a contingent remainder because she does have 2 children, but they're 2 and 4. O, because we have a contingent remainder, has a reversion by operation of law. So we have to create. C is going to be our measuring life or our life in being because C is going to control whether there is a child who reaches 23. So let's say C has a child A in 2000. C, I, and S die in a freak accident in 2001. So the rap line starts at 2001. 21 years, 10 months after C's death is 2022. You want to count. Can A's interest vest before 2022? No. It is not possible for A to turn 23 until 2023. So this is going to violate rap. What do we do under the traditional rule is we just blue line then to the first child of C who reaches 23 to the first child of C. Question 2. O conveys to D and her heirs, so long as it is used as a farm, then to N is in his heirs. Please press pause now, label the conveyances, do create, kill, count, and then I will give you the answer. Okay, so D has fee simple subject to executory limitation. Why? D, so long as, so we have some sort of condition or durational language, then to N, so we have a third party. So it's subject to an executory limitation because there is a condition on it. That condition can potentially cut off what D has and give it to N. So N has an executory interest and O has nothing. So here create, kill, count isn't necessary. Who has power over the executory interest? D. Can this condition fail more than 21 years, 10 months after D's death? Yes. This condition, so long as it is used as a farm, can continue on the land after D's life plus 21 years, 10 months. Therefore, it's going to violate the rule against perpetuities. This problem is one where create, kill, count doesn't work. So if you look at a problem and you label it and you see that there is an executory interest, a contingent remainder, or vested remainder subject to open, you know that you need to apply rule against perpetuities. Here we have the executory interest in N, so rule against perpetuities applies. But we don't need to create, kill, or count because so long as it is used as a farm, we can just look at that and know that that can exist past D's life plus 21 years, 10 months, therefore going to violate RAP. These are the easier questions. So I don't want you to worry too much about this. In practice, it is largely obsolete. You do need to know that 1, it exists. 2, you need to know when to spot it. So if you see a potentially forever event, like so long as it is used as a farm, or you see a class, D's children, C's children to reach 23, J's grandchildren, you immediately should think, okay, this is something that I have to use the RAP test for. So you know how to spot the problem. And know that this is going to be 1 to 2 multiple choice questions on the bar exam. So yes, you will see rule against perpetuities again. I will tell you that probably 95% of the people who prepare for the bar exam simply build into their score that they're going to skip the RAP questions because they don't want to be bothered to do create, kill, count. It takes too much time. And that is why I chose to do rule against perpetuities as an online lesson, because you should be able to spot it. I don't want anybody to go into the bar thinking automatically that they have to ignore certain questions. But most people do say that rule against perpetuities is the thing that they're going to skip on the bar, that they're going to go with easier questions that they can answer much faster. Therefore, I don't want to spend too much time on this. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. Please feel free to email me. Again, practice, create, kill, count, do the questions in the Coletta book. And next week when we return, we will be starting on concurrent estates.